What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant. Hope everybody's doing great. We're nearing the end of February already, and that's kind of crazy to think about. We're kind of halfway through, but February is already like a small... how do I put this? It's a shorter month, so it doesn't even matter. But like I said, hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody had a good Valentine's Day with that significant other or friends, Galentine's or... Dude's Day. I don't know what the single version of guys would be. Broentine? Broduce? Nah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm getting off topic here. I'm getting off topic here. Anyways, we're talking about another movie I was actually really looking forward to. Even though I annoyed Byrne with it, with my quoting and all that stuff with the trailers. But that's all just good fun. It's just, you got to poke the bear sometimes and just have fun, unless they murder you. But Byrne can't do that because it's him, and look at me, it's not gonna happen. It's just not. But anyways, we would be, if we were to fight Bernie, I think we'd be like a semi-pro. Like you'd be Jackie Moon, I'll be the bear. I'll Dewey the bear.
I was thinking more of Pineapple Express and the Danny McBride Seth Rogen showdown.
I'm just punching your butt. Just no. He's punching my bum. He's gonna call Ted. Or we'd be the Hitman. I forgot those guys, but just yeah, it's us and Matheson. They know here, Ted. Hey, Ted.
You guys are gonna break my door. Are you gonna pay for it?
Exactly, but okay. Again, we get too off topic sometimes. But we are talking about a biopic about probably one of the most prolific people in all of music, or at least our generation, and that is Bob Marley, One Love, starring Kingsley Ben-adir, Lashana Lynch, and that's pretty much it. I don't really know anybody else, and I apologize for that, for my ignorance on that, but this is a non-spoiler review as always for movies and stuff, so please do not forget to give us a like if you do enjoy the video, especially our Pineapple Express scenario. Ring the bell, just stay up to date with notifications, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. We do appreciate you all and want to keep this going. Also, we just did the Madam Web review, regretfully, so feel free to check that out if you're thinking about seeing that movie this weekend, but don't, though. Just watch our review and that's fine. You'll get the gist of it. Anyways, so this takes place mostly in a brief moment of Bob Marley's life, like I guess more of like when he was in the prime of his career, and that's all I could say about it. Like, given I know it's history, but I don't want to spoil it anyone else for the movie wise, so if you do plan on watching it, and I think the Kingsley Ben-adir, he did a good job. He looked as close to Bob Marley as you can. He nailed down the Jamaican accent, I think, pretty well, but again, I have never really met Jamaicans in my life, so maybe I can't speak to that. I don't mean to sound ignorant. And Lashana Lynch, she was, his wife, and she did a great job, but overall, this movie was just meh. Is it as bad as Madam Web? Absolutely not. I will not go that far, but it's just okay, and that's still really bad for someone of Bob Marley's like caliber and his status. Like, I know he was a very from the movie they depicted that he's a very humble guy, and that's true. That's awesome, but for that you got to prop him up in this movie, and I just didn't get that whatsoever. But Byrne, what did you think of the movie overall?
So coming into this one, I would say I was the opposite of you, because the trailers for this movie, given that they were all over the place and it got annoying to watch after a while, it seemed like this movie and Argyle were the two trailers that I just could not escape from, like whether it be in the theater before other movies or on TV and ads. The ads were everywhere for these movies, so that got a little bit annoying, but. I'm obviously going to give this movie like a fair shot because that's what it deserves. I'm going to come into a movie, I'm going to review it for what it is. But I have to admit that the trailers for this movie did give me some trepidation just because I didn't think they were very well cut. I thought they prop this movie up to be sort of just a generic telling of Bob Marley's story. And from the trailer clips, it looked like Kingsley Ben-adir was sort of kind of doing an impression, a bad impression of Bob Marley. So it wasn't doing him any justice. So I was coming into this with some trepidation. And while it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be, I thought Kingsley Ben-adir did a fine job for what he was given here, and Lashana Lynch as well. Everything else kind of was as I expected it, which is a very generic, very bullet point uh, biopic telling of Bob Marley's life. Even though it is, like you mentioned, a particular point in time from like 1976 to 78. So we're not getting his full life, but they do give us like some hints at like his past and stuff here and there. But yeah, if you've seen a biopic before, you've basically seen this movie, and I feel like it's one of those things where, and I hate to admit it, but Walk Hard is like one of those the things that just kind of ruin biopics for me, just because it sort of does a great job of poking fun at a lot of the cliches that we get in a lot of these biopics, and now I just can't not see them anymore. And this movie was just littered with them.
Walk Hard was so freaking good as it worked as a parody and just as a good movie on its own. And that's very rare for that to happen. I'm sorry, you brought it up. I just kept thinking of Dewey Cox, and you think about his entire life before he plays. Especially with that first trailer when he's like, where the guy's like, where do you want to start? And he's like, from the beginning. I was like, oh no. I disagree with you on the trailers. As much as I made fun of that line because it reminded me of Walk Hard, I still liked it. I was like, these trailers do a good job. I want to see it because I do like Bob Marley's music and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, I see that him and Lashana Lynch, they do their best to anchor this down. And while there are moments in it where I definitely see chemistry, there's definitely also parts of it I'm like, I don't feel anything with them. I don't really feel that love of family with them. So I don't know if that was the point because of that point in his life. I don't know. I don't know the whole. I don't know his story that well. But it's definitely one of those things, kind of like what happened with Bohemian Rhapsody, where they propped him up and try and do the best light, and they kind of left the gritty parts out. Or if there was any gritty parts, they didn't really do it, and they neutered it essentially. Which when you have projects that are about people that are very important to family members and friends, of course you don't want to show them the negative stuff. You don't want them to be remembered for it. But sometimes with these biopics, that's what helped make them who they were and like go through their life. That was part of their life.
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
like
my only thing.
When you remove aspects of this person's life, you're removing their story, whether it be good or bad. You have to keep it all in and give people the proper context of who this person was and how their lives, informed their art and informed their personalities. It's all important stuff, and that's why I commend Elton John for when Rocket Man was being made, for saying that, hey, they need to keep everything. Don't shy away from any of the bad aspects of my life, because it was all informative of the person I was, the artist I was, and they didn't do that here. And before the movie starts, it's not really a spoiler, but there's a brief message from Ziggy Marley, Bob Marley's son, at the beginning of the movie, saying how they're very involved in this and they wanted to be true to the story of Bob Marley. And that is one of those things where it can go either way. Like you said, they're being family members. You're very protective of this person that was in your life, obviously. So you tend to want to steer away from any of negative aspects or things that would paint that person in a negative light. But yeah, at the end of the day, it does an injustice because we just don't get to know the person. And that's the biggest problem of this movie, is that it's all very surface level. It's all very bullet pointy, where it's just like we're just hitting different spots in Bob Marley's life, and we're just getting from point to point, and there's no connective tissue. There's no dramatic through line. There's no real narrative being told. It's like someone just sort of recounting the story of Bob Marley to you, other than experiencing it for yourself. And that's where the movie is the biggest letdown for me. It's like, I could have, if I wanted to experience his story like this, I could have just read like a Wikipedia summary of his life. It's like I would have wanted. I expect more from a biopic at this point, and what we got here was just a very vanilla, very generic, very bland, and I would say not even entertaining in a lot of the aspects. I didn't find a lot of the musical moments really entertaining. I didn't find that any of the dramatic beats hit for me, and that's because of all the connective tissue that was just completely absent in this movie. And this was probably the worst case scenario for what a Bob Marley biopic is. and that is an unfortunate circumstance. And like you mentioned, this person was a musical icon, and someone like that deserves a lot better.
Well, I mean, that's just the double-edged sword, I think, with any sort of biopic ever, especially recent years, because, yeah, like I was talking about, you don't want to hurt the family's feelings, but at the same time, sometimes an outside voice is necessary to make a good movie. And in the end, it's just a movie. It doesn't. They're gonna fictionalize certain aspects anyways, dramatize it, stretch the truth a little bit. That's the point, and it's up to the family to be like, you know what, we knew who he was. That's or like we knew who they were. That's the important thing. This is just a movie, just trying to extend the reach for people who don't know that. But again, it's a very gray area you go in with making a movie like that, and sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But yeah, like you said, Rocket Man was one of my favorite biopics ever. Just because Taron Egerton did a great job, and he actually looked surprisingly a lot like Elton John back then. My other two favorites are Straight Outta Compton and Walk the Line. Because Johnny Cash, he had a very troubling life too, growing up, and a very rocky career here and there, especially due to drugs. Straight Outta Compton was just dealing with like racism, politics, and just society in general. So I wish One Love kind of explored that more. But in the end, it's okay. I would rather watch this over Madam Web. That's all I'm going to say on that. And my ranting for this is going to be 2 out of 5. Because while there are some good moments in it that I really liked and felt like this is what the movie is supposed to be about, overall it was just a very bland retelling of one of the most iconic people in all of music. And that's just a shame to say. So...
And yeah, that was the best way to put it. It's just a shame, and I really wish they could have gone in a different direction with this movie. I mean, it is only like an hour and like 40 something minutes, which is very short for a biopic. And this is one of those rare occasions where sometimes biopics do feel like they're overly bloated, like they were trying to fit way too much into the movie, and that just makes it like way too long. This one I could have used a little bit more because, like I said, it was all those little things, the personal connections and the connective tissue of the story. The proper build up and payoff to certain events that was just absolutely missing for me. And yeah, it just made it one of those things where I was not moved in any way by this movie. There was no emotion that it elicited out of me. And for that, I'm going to give this one a 1 out of 5. I think it even just fails at being a good generic biopic, with in comparison to things like Bohemian Rhapsody and I guess even Elvis to a certain extent. But at least those movies had dramatic narratives that they built up to, and that at least left you entertained at certain moments of the movie, where you're getting the payoff to a setup of either a musical number or a character moment. And here they were just completely lacking, and that is unfortunate to say. And one thing I will mention, and it's not a negative or a positive in any sort of way, but the movie, obviously these characters are Jamaican. Their Jamaican accents are there. They are very thick, so you're gonna just be prepared to pay very close attention to the dialogue, because it took me by surprise, because usually these movies are very like watered down, and I'm glad that they didn't go the direction of just giving everyone just generic American accents. I like that they kept it accurate, but just for people to be prepared, know that you're gonna have to pay close attention to the dialogue, because for me it took me about like half the movie to sort of understand completely what they were saying. But yeah, that is again neither a positive nor a negative, just something to be aware of.
Yeah, good point on that one. It kind of brought me back to when I was first watching Game of Thrones. I couldn't understand their British accents. I had to put the subtitles on because I was
True.
like, "What are you guys saying? Like, what? But that's fine." So those of you who did happen to catch this movie during, Valentine's Day, whatever, this last week, what did you think of it? We'd love to know to get to know that. So leave a comment, however you like the movie or like the video. We appreciate it. But until next time, we got Dune Part 2 finally coming out, and there's a lot of good buzz around that, so thank God. Until next time, everyone, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.